kindle the fire that is in us. Take our lips and speak through them. Take our hearts and see through them. Take our souls and set them on fire. Amen. Amen. So it's the beginning of the new year, the beginning of the season of Advent. And throughout the season of Advent, we listen to voices. And not just to any voices. We listen to the voices of the dead. Now some of these voices speak to us, as will happen next week when John the Baptist tells us to get ready because the Lord is on his way. Some of the voices speak to one another, as when Mary and Elizabeth meet and swap stories about their amazing pregnancies. And some of the voices speak for us and on our behalf, as is the case today with the voice of the prophet Isaiah. You see, prophets don't just proclaim the word of the Lord to the people. Sometimes prophets proclaim the word of the people to the Lord. Sometimes prophets speak the words that we have been searching for but can't seem to find. And sometimes prophets speak the words that are in our hearts, but that we are too afraid to speak to God ourselves. So today Isaiah begins by addressing God. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down. Now actually Isaiah doesn't begin here. He begins back in chapter 63 and verse 7. And his word extends to the 12th verse of chapter 64. And so we're just hearing a portion today of Isaiah's psalm. And it is a psalm. In fact, it's a particular type of psalm. What scholars call a psalm of lament. And in this case, a song of communal lament. Isaiah is giving voice to the people's despair. It's the period of the exile which began in 586 BC. Jerusalem has been overthrown. The city walls have been torn down, the temple has been razed, and the people have been carted off to Babylon. In short, the nation is in turmoil, and the people are living in fear and without hope. The people have been waiting for God to act, but so far nothing seems to be happening. And so they wonder, where is God? What is God up to? Is God even paying attention? And so in Isaiah 63:15, the prophet cries to the Lord, look down from heaven and see. But that's not enough. It's not enough for God just to notice what's going on. God needs to get down here and to do something quickly. And so Isaiah intensifies his demand. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, so that the mountains would quake at your presence, as when fire kindles brushwood, and when the fire causes the water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, so that the nations might tremble at your presence. When you did awesome deeds that we did not expect, you came down, the mountains quaked at your presence. In other words, the people want the Lord to do something big and impressive. Something extraordinary like the Exodus from Egypt, when the Lord rescued his people from their distress with a mighty hand, with signs and wonders that everybody could see, whether they had faith or not. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down. But what if God did that? What if God tore open the heavens and came down? What would we want God to do? What's broken in our world that we would want God to fix with a mighty hand? Another way of asking this question at this time of the year is, what do we want for Christmas? If God tore open the heavens and came down and put a present under the tree, what would we want it to be? It's a question worth contemplating. But unfortunately, it's essentially the same question I asked last Advent. So for the sake of variety, I wonder if we need to ask a different question. Perhaps we can ask the reverse question, and it's this. What does God want for Christmas? What's at the top of God's wish list? In other words, when God comes down on Christmas morning, what does God hope to find under his tree? That's the image that's been stuck in my mind. So when I hear the prophets say, "Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down," what I see in my mind's eye is God coming down early on Christmas morning and finding a large present under his Christmas tree. And like an excited child who can't wait, God rips off the wrapping paper, tears open the box, and peers down inside. And with a sudden exclamation says, "Oh, it's what I've always wanted." So if that happened, what's your guess? What did God get for Christmas? What did God get that God has always wanted? I think it might be creation. I imagine that under God's Christmas tree is God's creation, and it is wrapped up in the heavens. And so when God tears open the heavens and peers down, God beholds his creation. And what he wants to see is to see it flourishing. And what would be a sign that God's creation is flourishing? In a word, delight. God looks down and beholds with wonder because his children are taking delight in one another. In his book, Tattoos on the Heart, and in his chapter on gladness, Father Gregory Boyle quotes a friend of his who said, "God created us because he thought we'd enjoy it." And he continues, "We try to find a way then to hold our fingertips gently to the pulse of God. We watch as our hearts begin to beat as one with the one who delights in our being. Then what do? We exhale that same spirit of delight into the world and hope for poetry." Well, here are just a few random stories of delight from Father Greg. So he writes, "I remember being invited to an early morning radio show in Spanish. It's in studio and covers nearly 2 hours of the morning commute from 7 to 9. Father Gregory works with people who are trying to get out of gangs in East LA. And so people are calling in with all sorts of questions. Callers are asking me about gangs, and often enough, mothers are seeking advice about their wayward children. And it goes on like this for some time," he writes. "And as we near 9 o'clock, they take another call. It's from Filiberto in Downey. I think to myself, Filiberto is not that common of a name. And I have a worker named Feely who also lives in Downey." And the voice booms into the studio. "Hey, yeah, G, it's me, Feely. Yeah, well, I'm not feeling so good, and so I'm just calling to let you know that I won't be coming into work today." Feely has chosen a radio call-in show to call in sick. "Okay, Feely," I say stunned. "I hope you start feeling better." And as I drive home after the show, replaying Feely's call over and over in my head, I steep in the utter fullness of not wanting to have anyone else's life but my own. Here's a second story of delight. Brother Greg's in the office and he says, one day I'm looking for a runner, a homie to take a message to someone else in the building. I look up from my desk and see two homies in the well. That's the sunken computer area in the office where phones got answered and data entry got entered. And I spot Mario and Frankie, two big homies staring at a computer screen intently working. Though work may be too strong of a word. I'm about to call Frankie to be my runner when I observe him lean into Mario's chest and take a deep, deep breath. And he exhales contentedly. Frankie, come here a minute. I yell at him from my office. He looks cookie jar startled. Embarrassed, he runs to my office. I hand him the message and instruct him to go to the financial office. And he inches towards the door to leave, but then he turns around, sheepish and tentative. G, did you see me right now? You know, smelling Mario? I admit that I had. Oh, well, I mean, it's just that he'd be smelling good. I mean, me and all the homies, we'd be liking his cologne. Breathe it in, breathe it out. You want to be there when the poetry happens. Isaiah has God say, be glad forever and rejoice in what I create. For I create my people to be a delight. God thinking we'd enjoy ourselves. Delighting is what occupies God, and God's hope is that we join in. That God's joy may be in us, and this joy may be complete. We just happen to be God's joy. And that takes some time getting used to. And so on Christmas morning, when God tears open the heavens and peers down into creation, does God want to see peace and justice? Yeah. Does God want to see clean air and clean water and rich soil? Yeah. Does God want to see the end of poverty and violence? Does God want to see reconciliation between races and between genders? Absolutely. I suspect that there are a million things that God longs to see in His creation. But I also suspect that those millions of things are grown from just a few seeds. And one of those seeds is delight. And so it just might be the case that as we learn to take delight in the world as God does, as we learn to take delight in one another as God does, as we learn to take delight in ourselves as God delights in us, then I think we will find our way to peace and justice, to reconciliation, and to a sustainable environment. Amen. Amen.
May you please turn to page 358 and join with me in the Nicene Creed. We believe in one God,
the Father, the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, of one being with the Father. Through him all things were made. For us and for our salvation, he came down from heaven. By the power of the Holy Spirit, he became incarnate from the Virgin Mary and was made man. For our sake, he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried. On the third day, he rose again, in accordance with the Scriptures. He ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. We believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and his Son. With the Father and the Son, he is worshipped and glorified. He has spoken through the prophets. We believe in one holy Catholic and apostolic church. We acknowledge one baptism for the forgiveness of sins. We look for the resurrection of the dead and the life of the world to come. Amen.
Curse of Evil, Form 1, begins on page 380. With all our heart and with all our mind, let us pray to the Lord, saying,
Lord, have mercy.
for the peace from above, for the loving kindness of God, and for the salvation of our souls, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For the peace of the world, for the welfare of the Holy Church of God, and for the unity of all peoples, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For Michael, our presiding bishop, and for Mike, our bishop, for Ted, Amy, Bill, Larry, Mary, Georgia, and Joe. In the worldwide Anglican Communion, we pray for the Episcopal Church in West Uganda and in the Diocese of Western Kansas. We pray for St. Andrews in Liberal and the Reverend Carolyn Ballinger. Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For Donald, our President, and Sam, our Governor. For our representatives and judges. For the leaders of the nations. And for all in authority. Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For the city of Hutchinson, and for every city and community, and for those who live in them, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For seasonable weather, and for an abundance of the fruits of the earth, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For the good earth which God has given us, and for the wisdom and will to conserve it, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For those who travel on land, on water, or in the air, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For the aged and infirm, for the widow and orphans, and for the sick and the suffering, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For Jerry, Andy, Fred, Barbara, Kurt, Joy, Robert, John, Mandy, Ken, Shannon, Melanie, Byron, Beth, John, Drew, Mark, Brenda, Mary, Karen, and Janine. Are there others? those confined to home or care center, especially Bob, Jack, Evelyn, Avon, Doris, and Fanny. Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For the poor and the oppressed, for the unemployed and the destitute, for prisoners and captives, and for all who remain and care for them. Let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For all who have died in the hope of the resurrection, especially Stephen. And for all the departed, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
For deliverance from all danger, violence, oppression, and degradation, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
That we may end our lives in faith and hope, without suffering and without reproach, let us pray to the Lord.
Lord, have mercy.
Defend us, deliver us, and in thy compassion protect us, O Lord, by thy grace.
Lord, have mercy.
In the communion of saints, let us commend ourselves and one another and all our life to Christ our God.
To thee, O Lord our God.
O Lord, accept the fervent prayers of your people, and the multitude of your mercies look with compassion upon us and all who